The massive alien ship hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its sleek silver hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Behind it stretched a fleet of similar vessels, each one carrying thousands of refugees from a dying star system. Their journey had been long, but their advanced technology had made it bearable, until now. In the command center of the lead ship, First Commander Ray stood watching the holographic displays with growing concern. The quantum drive readouts made no sense. After passing through what they thought was empty space, every ship in the fleet had lost power to their main engines. They were stranded just past the orbit of Saturn, in a solar system they had only meant to pass by. "Status report," Ray demanded, his four-fingered hand tapping nervously on the control panel. The ship's AI responded in its usual calm voice. "All attempts to restart the quantum drives have failed. The anomaly we encountered has altered the quantum field harmonics in ways our systems cannot compensate for. We are operating on backup power only." Ray looked out at the strange yellow star ahead of them. They had been studying the third planet of this system for some time, fascinated by its primitive but surprisingly resourceful inhabitants. The humans, as they called themselves, had only recently achieved basic spaceflight. Their technology was centuries behind the fleet's level of advancement. "How long until life support becomes critical?" Ray asked. "At current power consumption rates, we have 48 standard days," the AI replied. "The refugee ships have less time due to their higher population density." Ray closed his inner eyelids in thought. Their own engineers had tried everything they could think of. The AI systems had run millions of simulations. Nothing worked. The quantum field simply refused to stabilize in a way their drives could use. That's when he remembered something he had observed while studying Earth. He had watched their entertainment broadcasts, specifically something they called reality shows about people fixing vehicles. The humans had a remarkable ability to solve problems with limited resources and unusual methods. "Show me the latest data we have on human space technology," Ray commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing images of their primitive rockets and space stations. Most interesting were their repair techniques. While his own people relied on complex diagnostic systems and precision tools, humans seemed to have an almost instinctive ability to improvise solutions. "Council members," Ray addressed the ship's leadership through the communication system. "I have an unconventional suggestion." The council chamber materialized around him as the holographic system connected them. 7 other commanders appeared, each looking as worried as he felt. "We have exhausted our conventional options," Ray continued. "I propose we contact the humans and request their assistance." The chamber erupted in protests. "They barely understand basic spaceflight. Their technology is primitive. We can't trust them with our advanced systems." Ray held up his hand for silence. "Look at our situation logically. Our advanced technology has failed us. Our AI cannot solve this problem. We need a new perspective, perhaps even a primitive one. Humans have demonstrated remarkable problem-solving abilities, especially in crisis situations. You want to trust the fate of our entire refugee fleet to primitives who still burn fossil fuels?" Second Commander Lin asked incredulously. "I want to survive," Ray replied simply. "And I believe their very primitiveness might be exactly what we need. They solve problems differently than we do. They don't rely on AI or quantum calculations. They improvise." The council fell silent, considering his words. The displays around them showed the status of their fleet: 15 ships, carrying over 50,000 refugees, all stranded and slowly running out of power. Finally, High Commander Vale spoke. "The risk of revealing ourselves to them is significant, but the risk of doing nothing is certain death." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "We will make contact, but we must be careful how we approach them. Their historical records show they can be unpredictable when surprised." Ray nodded. "I suggest we start with their space agencies. They have several: NASA, ESA, and others. We can transmit our situation in terms they'll understand." "Agreed," Vale decided. Prepare a message. Keep it simple. And Ray, she added as the others began to disconnect, I hope your faith in these primitives is not misplaced. Ray looked again at the distant blue planet. They may surprise us all, he said softly. Captain James Miller stood in NASA's mission control, staring at the message displayed on the main screen. He read it for the 10th time, still hardly believing what he was seeing. Let me get this straight, he said, running a hand through his gray-streaked hair. There's an alien fleet stranded near Saturn, and they're asking for our help. That's correct, Captain, Mission Director Roberts replied. Their message was picked up by radio telescopes worldwide. They're specifically requesting engineering assistance. The room was packed with scientists, military officials, and government representatives from various space agencies. Everyone was talking at once, but Miller's attention was drawn to engineer Lisa Thompson, who stood quietly studying the technical data the aliens had sent. Thompson, he called out, what do you make of their problem? Lisa looked up from her tablet. It's fascinating, sir. Their quantum drives work on principles we've only theorized about. But from what I can tell, they hit some kind of quantum disturbance that changed the basic rules their technology relies on. And they think we can help. Miller asked. We haven't even made it to Mars yet. Maybe that's exactly why they called us, Lisa replied, her eyes lighting up with excitement. They mentioned in their message that they've been watching us. They've seen how we solve problems. The experimental spacecraft, Resourceful, was prepared for launch within 48 hours. It was humanity's first true deep space vessel, built for rescue missions, but never tested beyond the moon. Captain Miller stood in the bridge, looking at his small but carefully chosen crew. Lisa Thompson was at the engineering station, already running calculations. As they approached the alien fleet, Miller felt his breath catch. The ships were beautiful, sleek silver vessels that seemed to glow in the starlight. The lead ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of their own vessel. This is Captain James Miller of Earth Vessel Resourceful, he transmitted, responding to your request for assistance. The response came immediately. Captain Miller, this is First Commander Ray. Thank you for coming. We are preparing our docking protocols. The docking went smoothly. Too smoothly, Miller thought. The aliens had clearly done this many times before. When the airlock opened, he found himself face to face with First Commander Ray. The alien was tall and slender, with silvery skin and 4-fingered hands. But what struck Miller most was the look in those large, dark eyes, the same look he'd seen in the eyes of stranded sailors, a mix of hope and desperation. Welcome aboard, Ray said in perfect English. We appreciate your rapid response to our situation. Lisa Thompson was already moving forward, her eyes darting around the alien technology surrounding them. Your systems are incredible, she said, but I notice you're running on backup power. Correct, Ray replied. Our main drives are completely non-functional. Our AI has run millions of simulations. Never mind the simulations, Lisa interrupted, earning surprised looks from both the aliens and her own captain. Can you show me the actual engines? The engine room was enormous, filled with technology that seemed to defy physics itself. The alien engineers hovered nervously as Lisa walked around their precious quantum drive, occasionally tapping parts with a simple wrench she'd brought from their ship. You're saying the quantum fields won't stabilize? She asked, frowning at a readout she only partially understood. Correct, one of the alien engineers replied. The anomaly has changed the fundamental. A metallic clang echoed through the room. Everyone turned to see Lisa, who had just struck one of the drive's support struts with her wrench. What are you doing? The alien engineer asked, horrified. Diagnostic test, Lisa replied calmly. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Captain, she turned to Miller. I think I might have an idea. It's not exactly by the book, though. Miller smiled. This was exactly why he'd chosen her for the mission. When has that ever stopped us? Tell me what you need. The aliens watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as the humans began their work, using methods that no advanced civilization would ever consider. The rescue mission was about to take a very unexpected turn. Lisa Thompson sat cross-legged on the floor of the alien engine room, surrounded by diagrams and calculations scribbled on paper. The alien engineers watched in confusion. They hadn't seen anyone use physical writing materials in generations. "You're still using processed tree pulp to record information," one of them asked. "Sometimes you need to see things the old way to think of new solutions," Lisa replied, not looking up from her sketches. She had been studying the quantum drive for hours, combining what she knew about basic physics with the aliens' advanced technology. Captain Miller walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Lisa and sat down beside her. "Any progress?" Lisa took a long sip and pointed to her drawings. "Their quantum drive is amazing. It basically folds space using quantum fields, but the anomaly they hit change how those fields work in this region of space." "Can you fix it?" Miller asked. "Not exactly," Lisa said, a slight smile forming on her face. "But I might have another idea. Remember those old solar sail projects from the 2020s? Miller nodded. "Using light pressure to push spacecraft. But that would be way too slow for their needs." "True," Lisa said, standing up and walking to the massive engine. "But what if we combine that old principle with their technology? The quantum anomaly is still out there, still affecting space. Instead of fighting it, we could use it." She turned to the alien engineers. "Your sensors can detect the quantum disturbance, right?" First Commander Ray, who had just entered the room, answered. "Of course. We've mapped it extensively, trying to find a way around it." "Show me," Lisa requested. A holographic display appeared, showing complex energy patterns stretching through space. Lisa walked around it, nodding to herself. "It's not just disrupting your drives," she said excitedly. "It's creating waves in space-time itself. Small ones, but they're there. If we modify your hull plating to act like a solar sail, but tune to these quantum waves instead of light." "Impossible," one of the alien engineers interrupted. "The energy requirements alone would be massive," Lisa finished, "if we tried to power it artificially. But the waves are already out there. We just need to catch them." She grabbed her papers and started laying them out on a nearby table. "Look, it's like surfing. Surfers don't power themselves across the ocean. They catch waves that are already there. We can do the same thing here, but with quantum waves." The alien stared at her blankly. "Surfing is..." "Never mind," Lisa sighed. "The point is, we don't need to create new energy. We just need to ride what's already there." Captain Miller watched as Lisa explained her plan using increasingly simple diagrams. The alien engineer's expressions shifted from dismissal to confusion to cautious interest. "It's primitive," Ray said finally. "Using a quantum disturbance like a wind current. Our AI never suggested anything like this." "That's because your AI thinks like you do," Miller replied. "It looks for perfect, elegant solutions. Sometimes you need something a little less elegant. And a lot more human," Lisa added. "We'll need to modify the hull plating on all your ships. It won't be pretty, but it should work." "Should?" Ray asked, alarmed. "Welcome to human engineering," Miller said with a grin. "Where should work is sometimes the best you get. But Lisa's hunches are usually right." Ray looked at the life support readings displayed nearby. They were running out of time, and no better solutions had presented themselves. "Very well," he said finally. "What do you need to begin?" Lisa's eyes lit up. "First, I need to understand exactly how your hull plating works. Then we'll need to rewire several systems in ways they definitely weren't designed for. Oh, and I'll need more coffee." As Lisa began explaining her modifications to the increasingly nervous alien engineers, Miller stepped back and watched with pride. He'd seen that look in her eyes before, the same look that had gotten them out of countless impossible situations back on Earth. The aliens were about to learn why humans had survived and thrived despite their primitive technology. Sometimes the best solutions weren't the most advanced ones. They were the ones crazy enough to work. The first test of Lisa's quantum sail modification didn't go well. In fact, it went spectacularly wrong. Hull Section 47 is experiencing severe vibrations, the alien ship's AI announced calmly, while warning lights flashed across every display in the engine room. "Shut it down," Captain Miller ordered, watching as the modified section of hull plating shuddered violently on the external cameras. Lisa's fingers flew across the control panel, working with two alien engineers to power down the experimental system. The vibrations slowly stopped, leaving behind a visibly warped section of the once pristine hull. "Well," Lisa said, wiping sweat from her forehead, "now we know what not to do." First Commander Ray looked at the damage with concern. "This failure could have breached our hull. Perhaps we should reconsider." "No," Lisa interrupted, already scribbling new calculations on her paper. "This is exactly what we needed to see. Look at how the plating warped. It was trying to catch the quantum waves, but the frequency was wrong." She held up her notes to the light. "We were thinking too big. Instead of trying to catch the whole wave, we need to surf the ripples. Smaller adjustments, spread across more of the hull." One of the alien engineers, who had been quietly observing Lisa's methods over the past few days, stepped forward. "Like spreading the load across multiple support points rather than concentrating it in one area." "Exactly." Lisa beamed at him. "See, you're starting to think like a human engineer." The second test went better, but still not quite right. The hull plating caught the quantum waves, but couldn't hold them. The ship moved a few meters before spinning wildly off course. "At least we got movement," Miller said encouragingly, helping Lisa up from where she'd been thrown against a wall. "That's progress." "The quantum field is too unstable," Ray observed, studying the sensor readings. "Our eye suggests." "Forget the AI for a minute," Lisa said. "Look at the patterns. Remember what I said about surfing? We're trying to ride the whole wave at once. But real surfers don't do that. They start by catching just the edge." She turned to the alien engineer who had spoken earlier. "What if we modified the forward sections first? Just enough to catch the leading edge of the quantum waves." The engineer considered this, then began making his own calculations, on paper, to the surprise of his colleagues. "If we reduce power to the forward sections by 60% and sequence the activation." The third test showed real promise. The ship moved smoothly for almost a minute before the quantum sails lost their grip on the waves. "Now that's more like it," Lisa shouted excitedly. "Did you see how it handled before we lost control? The waves aren't fighting us anymore. We just need to hold them longer." Even Ray was starting to look optimistic. "The energy efficiency is remarkable. We're using less than 5% of the power our quantum drives required." "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one," Miller said. "Lisa, what do you need for the next test?" "I need to talk to every engineering team in the fleet," she replied. "The sails are working, but the timing has to be perfect. If we can get all ships to catch the waves in sequence, like a line of surfers." Ray nodded. "I'll arrange it immediately. But our life support systems are running out of time." "I know," Lisa finished. "But we're close. Really close. We just need one more thing." "What's that?" Miller asked. Lisa grinned. "We need to teach your engineers how to improvise. The quantum waves aren't consistent. They never will be. Each ship will need engineers who can adjust on the fly, who can feel when something's wrong, and fix it without waiting for AI calculations." She turned to the alien engineer who had been working with her. "Think you can handle teaching your colleagues how to trust their instincts?" The engineer looked at his paper calculations, then at the damaged hull section from their first attempt. "As you humans say, only one way to find out." As they prepared for the fourth test, Miller watched his human crew working alongside the alien engineers. Something remarkable was happening. Two very different approaches to problem-solving were beginning to merge, creating something entirely new. They weren't just fixing a stranded fleet anymore. They were teaching an advanced civilization how to rediscover its own creativity. The alien ship's observation deck offered a stunning view of Saturn's rings. Captain Miller stood there with First Commander Ray, both taking a short break from the constant work on the quantum sails. "Your engineer, Lisa," Ray said, "she reminds me of stories from our ancient history, before we relied so heavily on AI and perfect solutions." Miller smiled. "Oh, what kind of stories?" "Tales of our early space exploration, when we had to solve problems with limited tools and knowledge." Ray's large eyes reflected the starlight. "Somewhere along the way, we lost that creativity." In the dining area nearby, Lisa sat with a group of alien engineers. They had been working non-stop on adapting the quantum sail design for each ship in the fleet, and now they were sharing a meal break. The aliens were fascinated by the simple sandwich Lisa had brought from the Resourceful. "You still prepare food by hand?" one engineer asked, watching her take a bite. "Sometimes," Lisa replied. "There's something satisfying about making things yourself, even if a machine could do it better." "That seems to be a common theme with humans," another engineer observed. "You often choose the less efficient path." Lisa wiped some crumbs from her notes. "Efficiency isn't everything. When you do things the hard way sometimes, you learn things you wouldn't discover otherwise." She pointed to their latest hull modification designs. "Like these quantum sails. Your eye would never have suggested them because they're not the most efficient solution. But they work, and more importantly, they're teaching us both something new." Down in the engine room, human and alien technicians worked side by side, sharing stories as they adjusted equipment. One alien technician was explaining their educational system to his human counterpart. "We learn through direct neural links to our knowledge bases," he said. "Perfect information transfer, no errors." "Sounds boring," the human technician replied, carefully adjusting a power coupling. "Half the fun of learning is making mistakes and figuring out why they happened." "We're beginning to see the value in that approach," the alien admitted. "Watch this." He purposely misaligned the coupling, then fixed it. "Now I understand the sound it makes when it's wrong. The neural link never taught us that." In the medical bay, the ship's doctor was sharing data with the Resourceful's medical officer about their different species. The alien doctor was amazed by human biology. "Your bodies actually repair themselves through this inefficient process called inflammation?" she asked, studying the human medical texts. "Inefficient but effective," the human doctor replied. "Sometimes the messy solution is the one that works best in the real world." Back on the observation deck, Miller and Ray watched as another test of the quantum sails pushed the massive ship forward slightly before stabilizing. "Your people have learned our technology remarkably quickly," Ray noted. "And your people are learning to trust their instincts more," Miller responded. "I saw one of your engineers actually kick a stuck panel yesterday. Never thought I'd see that." Ray made a sound that Miller had learned was alien laughter. "Yes, we're calling it percussive maintenance now. It's not in any of our technical manuals, but it seems to work surprisingly often." "That's the thing about humans," Miller said. "We've learned that manuals don't cover everything. Sometimes you have to improvise, try new things, even if they seem primitive." "We used to be like that," Ray said quietly. "Our historical records show our species was once full of inventors and explorers who tried wild ideas. But as our technology advanced, we began to rely more on simulation and prediction. We stopped experimenting, stopped taking risks." He turned to Miller. "Perhaps that's why we were drawn to study Earth. We saw in humans what we had lost in ourselves." Miller watched as another test began, seeing human and alien crews working together seamlessly now. "Maybe that's the real breakthrough here. Not just fixing your ships, but helping both our species remember that progress isn't always about having the most advanced solution." "Indeed," Ray agreed, "though I must admit, I'm still not sure about Lisa's suggestion to name this new technology quantum surfing." Miller laughed. "Just wait until she teaches your crew how to skateboard." The time had finally come. 15 massive ships hung in space, their modified hull plating gleaming with a new purpose. On the lead ship's bridge, Captain Miller watched as Lisa made the final checks. Life support status, Miller asked, knowing they were cutting it close. 8 hours remaining in the refugee ships, Ray replied. We must succeed on this attempt. Lisa looked up from her station. All ships report ready. The quantum wave patterns are as stable as they're going to get. She paused, then added, which isn't very stable at all. Fleet positions, Miller asked. All ships are in formation. The alien navigator responded, arranged in the surfing line, as Engineer Thompson designed. Lisa had positioned the ships like surfers catching an ocean wave, each slightly offset from the others to catch the quantum ripples in sequence. It was a formation that had made the alien eye compute for hours before declaring it illogically optimal. All ships, this is Captain Miller, he transmitted to the fleet. Remember your training. Watch the ships ahead of you. Feel the waves. Don't fight them. Ride them. Just like we practiced. Beginning power-up sequence, Lisa announced. Quantum sails activating in 3, 2, 1. The first shudder ran through the ship as the modified hull plating caught the invisible quantum waves. Warning lights flashed across every console. Halt stress at 85% of maximum. An alien engineer called out. That's normal, Lisa said calmly, though her knuckles were white as she gripped her console. Wait for it. The massive ship began to move. Behind them, the second ship caught the wave, then the third. Like a line of surfers on an invisible ocean, the fleet began to accelerate. Then everything went wrong. Wave pattern shifting. Lisa shouted. The quantum field is destabilizing. Ray's hands flew over his controls. The AI cannot compensate fast enough. Forget the AI, Miller commanded. Everyone switched to manual control. Lisa? She was already moving, her fingers dancing across the panels. The wave's not breaking down. It's splitting. Captain, I need everyone to turn 15 degrees to port now. But the calculations, an alien officer started to protest. No time. Miller cut him off. All ships, 15 degrees port now. The fleet turned together, following Lisa's instinct. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then the ship started to spin. We're losing the wave, someone shouted. No, Lisa said, a strange calm in her voice. We're not losing it. We're catching a bigger one. All ships, cut power to starboard quantum sails. Ride the spin. Ray looked at Miller in alarm. Captain, that's the opposite of what we should. Do it, Miller ordered. Trust her. Across the fleet, human and alien crews worked together, following Lisa's seemingly crazy instructions. The ship spun faster, but somehow stayed in formation. Now, Lisa shouted, full power to all sails. Catch it. The entire fleet lurched as if grabbed by an invisible hand. Warning alarms blared as the ships accelerated far faster than any of their calculations had predicted. Hull stress beyond maximum, the engineer called out. The quantum field is. Ray stared at his readings in disbelief. It's synchronizing across all ships. How is this possible? Lisa grinned, still focused on her controls. We're not fighting the chaos in the quantum field anymore. We're part of it. All ships, maintain current settings. We're surfing the big wave now. Miller watched in amazement as the fleet moved as one, riding the quantum disturbance like a surfer on the perfect wave. The aliens' advanced sensors showed them catching and channeling quantum energy in ways their AI had deemed impossible. Distance to edge of anomaly, Miller asked. At current speed, Ray checked his instruments twice. 3 minutes, we're going to make it. Around the bridge, human and alien crew members monitored their stations together, making constant small adjustments without waiting for computer guidance. They had learned to feel the quantum waves, to work with the chaos instead of trying to control it. Message from the refugee ships, the communications officer announced. They're cheering. Miller looked at Lisa, still focused intently on riding the quantum wave, then at Ray, who was watching his own crew work with a mix of pride and amazement. They hadn't just found a way to save the fleet. They had rediscovered something both species had nearly forgotten. Sometimes the best solutions come not from fighting chaos, but from learning to dance with it. 1 month after the successful rescue, the alien fleet orbited their home world. The massive blue-green planet filled the view screens as Captain Miller and his crew prepared to say goodbye. "I still can't believe those quantum sails worked," Lisa said, standing on the observation deck with a group of alien engineers. She had spent the journey teaching them more about human problem-solving approaches, while they had taught her about their advanced technology. "They did more than work," one of the alien engineers replied. "They changed everything. Our council has already ordered all new ships to include quantum sail capability." "Really?" Lisa raised an eyebrow. "I thought your AI said they were too inefficient." "The AI has been revised," another engineer said with what Lisa had learned was a smile. "We've added new protocols that value creative solutions over perfect efficiency. We're calling it the human factor." In the main conference room, Miller sat with First Commander Ray and the Alien Leadership Council. The large chamber was filled with both species, all gathered for the farewell ceremony. "The rescue of our fleet will be remembered as a turning point in our history," the head council member announced. "Not just because of the lives saved, but because of what we learned from our human friends." Ray stepped forward. "We had become too dependent on perfect solutions. We forgot that the universe is not perfect. It is chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes the best way forward is not the most elegant one." "You're not going to start hitting all your machines with wrenches now, are you?" Miller asked with a grin. The chamber filled with both human and alien laughter. Over the past month, the aliens had begun to rediscover their sense of humor along with their creativity. "We have a proposal," Ray continued once the laughter died down. "Our council wishes to establish a permanent exchange program. We want human engineers and problem solvers to work with our teams, and we want to share our technology with Earth." Miller looked surprised. "I thought we were too primitive for your technology." "Perhaps," the head council member said, "but you are not too primitive to teach us what we have forgotten. Sometimes the oldest lessons are the most valuable ones." In the ship's dining hall, human and alien crew members shared one last meal together. The aliens had taken to eating sandwiches, saying the manual preparation helped them think better. The humans had learned to appreciate the aliens' more efficient food, though they insisted on arranging it messily on their plates. "Did you hear?" one alien technician asked excitedly. "They're renaming the quantum anomaly. It's officially being called the Thompson Wave after Lisa." "She'll hate that." Another human crew member laughed. "She keeps saying she just copied the idea from surfers back on Earth." "That's exactly why it deserves her name," Ray said, joining their table. "She taught us that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places." As the resourceful prepared to return to Earth, Lisa made one final check of the alien ship's systems. She had drawn diagrams all over the engine room walls, actual paper diagrams taped up next to the high-tech displays. The alien engineers had insisted on keeping them there as a reminder. "You know," she said to Ray, "when we first arrived, I thought we were just here to fix your ships. I never expected to change an entire civilization." Ray finished. "Neither did we. But perhaps that's the greatest lesson you taught us, to expect the unexpected." On the bridge, Miller took one last look at the alien world below. "Will you be all right if you encounter another quantum anomaly?" he asked Ray. "Thanks to you, we'll be better than all right," Ray replied. "We've learned to surf." As the resourceful broke orbit and began its journey home, Miller thought about everything that had happened. They had come to save a stranded fleet, but they had achieved something far more important. Two civilizations had learned from each other, growing stronger by combining the best of both worlds. The aliens had rediscovered their lost creativity, while humanity had gained new friends among the stars. And somewhere out in space, 15 ships carried the proof that sometimes the best solutions come not from advanced technology, but from the simple wisdom of learning to ride the waves.